Clarence Donald thought it was just another quiet Friday night steak, until his new waitress leaned in and whispered 7 words that turned his meal into a moment of reckoning. Every Friday, like clockwork, Clarence Darnell pulled into the same narrow parking space at Jean's Roadhouse Grill, just off East Durn Avenue in Savannah. His old Ford Ranger coughed twice before going quiet, and he stepped out in jeans pressed that morning, a burgundy flannel shirt buttoned to the top, and his Army-issued cap tilted slightly forward, like a man who kept watch even during dinner. He didn't need a menu. Never had. Medium-rare ribeye, house fries, collard greens, and a glass of iced tea. 2 sugars, no lemon. That was Clarence's ritual, and in this town, rituals mattered. Inside, the air smelled of mesquite and beef fat. The floors creaked under heavy boots. Locals filled the booths, contractors with sunburned necks, retired schoolteachers, the occasional cop on break. Folks didn't make a fuss about Clarence. They just gave him space, the way you do with men who've seen more than they'll ever say. He always chose the booth by the window. From there, he could see both the parking lot and the entrance. Habit, reflex, whatever you called it, it came from years of watching your own back when nobody else would. Tonight, though, something felt different. Not in a big flashy way, just different. The usual waitress, Bernice, the one with loud bracelets and a louder laugh, wasn't there. Instead, a new face approached. Mid to late 20s, pale skin, ponytail pulled tight like she was trying to hold herself together. Her name tag read E. Carver. She clutched her notepad like it might bite her. "Hi there," she said, smiling with effort. "I'll be taking care of you tonight. You ready to order?" Clarence looked up slowly. Medium-rare ribeye, fries, greens, tea. Sweet. She blinked. "Yes, sir." Pen moved quick. He wasn't expecting more. She turned, and he added, "No lemon." She paused, nodded, scribbled, and disappeared toward the kitchen. It should have ended there. But 5 minutes later she came back, not with drinks, not with anything, just stood there beside the table, glancing over her shoulder. Sorry, what was your name?" "Clarence." She leaned in slightly. "Clarence, can I ask how long you plan on staying tonight?" His eyes narrowed just a little. "Long enough to finish my meal." There was hesitation. Her lips parted, then closed again. She looked around, voice barely above a whisper. "They don't want you here tonight." It hit like a dropped fork. Clarence froze. Not dramatically, just enough to show his mind had switched from relaxed to ready. "Come again?" She glanced around. The restaurant still buzzed with noise. Laughter from a booth, clinking silverware, soft, classic rock humming underneath. She leaned closer. "They don't want you here tonight. I thought you should know." Clarence's fingers curled slightly around the edge of the table. His voice stayed low. "Who's they?" Her eyes flicked toward the far corner just past the bar. A booth sat in the shadows, 4 men, all watching. One bald with tattooed arms, another with a goatee and a smirk. The other 2 looked like they belonged in hunting ads. Clarence turned back to her. "You sure that warning was meant for me?" She didn't smile. "I don't joke with tables." He sat back, arms crossed and tone dropping lower. "You knew? Week and a half?" She nodded. "And you're already getting messages for other people?" "Not messages," she said softly. "Just overheard something. Thought you'd want to know." He didn't thank her, didn't say much at all. Just studied her, trying to read the years she hadn't lived yet. Something in her eyes told him this wasn't rumor. It was personal. She didn't flinch under his stare, and that told him more than words could. The tea arrived. She set it down carefully, the ice clinking like it was nervous too. Clarence took a slow sip, never taking his eyes off her. "You want to sit?" he asked calmly. Emily hesitated, glanced toward the kitchen, then slid into the chair across from him. "I'm not supposed to be off the floor," she murmured. "Then talk fast," Clarence replied, voice low. "What exactly did you hear?" She twisted the corner of her notepad. "They've been coming in the past few weeks. Same group, same booth. Last Friday, they left a note. Said certain types of customers make the place feel tense." Clarence raised an eyebrow. "Certain types?" She nodded. "That's all it said. No names," he leaned in. "What makes you think they meant me?" Because they said the man who wears a flannel shirt and a veteran's cap, the one who sits by the window. Silence filled the space between them. The restaurant kept moving, chefs shouting orders, toddlers laughing, silverware clattering, but at their table, time had gone still. "And Jean's okay with that?" Clarence asked. Emily looked down. "I don't know what Jean thinks. His son Travis runs it now. Doesn't say much, but one of those guys, Logan Mercer, we went to high school together. He wasn't subtle back then either." Clarence's eyes hardened. "What's his name?" "Logan Mercer," she repeated. "Senior when I was a freshman. Always in trouble, fights, vandalism, you name it. Family had money, so it disappeared from his record." Clarence nodded slowly. "And now he's the kind of man who leaves notes for management." Emily nodded. "He runs a contracting business. Brings half his crew here. Spends money. Tips heavy. And you're telling me this because—" She looked him dead in the eye. "Because the last time men like him started whispering about who belonged and who didn't, people ignored it. And then it got louder. I don't want to wait until it gets loud again." Clarence let the words hang. He respected the courage it took to say that out loud. "You afraid of him?" he asked. She hesitated, hands folding tight in her lap. "I'm afraid of where this kind of talk goes. And I'm afraid nobody else here will say a damn thing about it." He looked at her hands. They were shaking. Then back toward the booth, those same 4 men still watching. "You said Logan knew you back then?" Emily nodded. "Used to mess with me. Lock me in closets, spread rumors." Then he left. "Now he's back, and somehow he thinks he owns this town." Clarence leaned forward, elbows on the table, voice firm but calm. "What do you want me to do?" Emily blinked. "I don't know. You telling me this, either you want me to leave or stand up, and I don't leave when I'm told not to be somewhere." She exhaled shakily. "I just wanted you to be ready. I didn't want you to get blindsided." Clarence picked up his glass again, took a sip, set it down with a quiet tap. "Well," he said, "I'm ready now." But there were still 5 tables between him and the truth, and 4 pairs of eyes watching every move. Clarence didn't move much, but his senses sharpened. He'd been through enough patrols in the desert to know when tension in a room started shifting, and he could feel it now, not just from the corner booth, but from the bar, where the bartender had stopped polishing glasses and now watched him. Even the busboy had slowed sweeping. Emily stood like she was about to say more, but someone in the kitchen called her name, sharp, like a warning. She gave Clarence one tight glance, then disappeared behind the swinging doors. Clarence stayed seated, back straight, gaze level. He didn't go for his phone or keys, just sat still, calm, the only man in the room not pretending. 10 seconds later, the chair across from him scraped. A body eased into it. He didn't look up, but he knew who it was. "I see you still like that corner table," a voice said, low, smug, southern. Clarence lifted his head. Across from him sat a man in a gray shirt, sleeves rolled up, buzz cut too tight, grin that didn't reach his eyes. "Logan Mercer," Clarence said flatly. Logan leaned back like they were old pals. "Heard you come here every Friday. Figured I'd introduce myself. We're both regulars." Clarence didn't smile. "Can't say I was waiting on that privilege." Logan chuckled. "Well, you know how it is. Some folks just don't mix well. You start seeing patterns. It's polite to speak up." Clarence tilted his head. "Speak up to who?" Logan's smirk widened. "To the folks who run this place. Folks who care about their regulars. You change the ingredients too much. And the flavor changes, you know what I mean?" Clarence stared at him. "I know exactly what you mean." Logan kept smiling, but his fingers tapped the table. "Now, you don't strike me as dumb, Clarence. You're ex-military. You know about systems, order, chain of command." "I know about pushing back when the orders are garbage," Clarence replied. "You got something to say it plain." Logan's smile faded slightly. "I'm saying this ain't about you personally. But some places just work better when people know their lane. Yours ain't this one." The silence between them grew hot, like a fuse waiting to burn. Clarence finally leaned forward. "Let me tell you something. I've earned the right to sit where I want, eat what I want, and exist without asking your permission. Sure, Logan said, still smirking. But this ain't about the law. It's about comfort. Mine, theirs, even hers. Clarence's brow lifted. Hers? Logan nodded toward the kitchen. Emily, you think she came to warn you out of kindness? She's scared. And when people like you make noise, folks like her catch the heat. Clarence didn't respond. He sat back, folded his arms, studying Logan like a man looking for cracks in armor. Then he asked quietly, "What happened to you?" Logan frowned. "What?" "You were a punk in high school," Clarence said. "Then you had every chance in the world handed to you. Now you're worried about what a 62-year-old man's eating for dinner. Somewhere along the way, you started fearing shadows." Logan leaned forward, voice low. "You keep coming back here and you're going to see what happens when shadows fight back." Clarence stood, not fast, not loud, just enough to make the table creak. "You picked the wrong old man," he said. Logan stayed seated, eyes hard. Clarence turned and walked toward the restroom. Not the door, not the bar, just quietly stepping away from the tension. But when he returned 5 minutes later, the booth was empty. Emily was gone. Clarence paused. The corner booth sat vacant. No Logan, no jackets, just napkins, a half-finished plate, and a crumpled receipt. Someone had left fast. The room carried on as if nothing happened. He sat back down, his tea still sweating on the table. No food had come. Maybe the kitchen was told to hold his order. Maybe someone wanted him to leave. He waved to the busboy. "You seen my server?" The kid looked confused. "Emily?" "She went out back, I think." "About 5 minutes ago," Clarence nodded. "Tell the kitchen to bring my ribeye. Medium rare, fries, greens. Tell 'em I'm still here." The kid hesitated, then walked off. Clarence looked toward the side window. A narrow view of the alley, the trash bin, and a brick wall. Out back, alone. He didn't like it. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. No steak. No Emily. No manager. Finally, he stood, left a 10 for the tea, and walked to the side door. Outside, the summer heat clung to him. The alley was quiet, just a rattling AC unit above the door. Then he heard voices. Muffled, tense. He followed the sound, careful steps on the gravel. Emily stood near the dumpster, arms crossed, face flushed. Logan stood close, his voice low. Clarence stayed out of sight, listening. "You said you were done with this," Emily hissed. "I didn't say I was done looking out for people," Logan replied. "You don't know what kind of man that is. He's been coming here longer than I've worked here, and he tips better than any of your boys." "He doesn't belong," Logan snapped. "Because of what? A seat? A steak? You think the world's supposed to revolve around your comfort?" Silence. Then Logan said coldly, "I could get you fired with one call." Emily stepped back. "Try me." Clarence turned the corner. His voice was steady. "She won't be losing her job tonight, not if I have anything to say about it." Logan froze. Emily's eyes widened. "This ain't your business, old man," Logan said. "It became my business when you sat at my table," Clarence answered. Logan stepped forward. "You think you can scare me with your stories?" Clarence stood tall. "I don't need stories. I've lived enough to know exactly what men like you do when no one's watching. But you picked the wrong pair tonight. No one moved." Then Logan exhaled sharply, glared at Emily. "Fine. Don't say I didn't warn you." He walked off. Emily released a breath she'd been holding. "You didn't have to do that," she said quietly. "Sure I did," Clarence said. But he knew this wasn't over. They stood there in the heavy night air. The AC buzzed above. Emily rubbed her arm, nervous. "You said he used to mess with you," Clarence asked. "That wasn't just high school behavior, was it?" She shook her head. "He was cruel. Subtle, the kind people defend. He's got a crew now, does roofing. Comes here every week. Pays cash, tips high. But every Friday, when someone walks in who doesn't look like them, they leave." Clarence frowned. "Anyone else notice?" "Some of the kitchen staff, maybe. But they don't talk. They just try to keep their jobs." He nodded slowly. "That kind of silence costs more than a paycheck." Emily looked down. "You think I'm stupid for saying something?" "No," Clarence said. I think you remember what decency looks like." She smiled weakly. "Decency doesn't pay rent. I've got a 4-year-old. His dad's gone. I need this job. But I can't lie to my son about who I am." Clarence pulled out his wallet and handed her 2 20s. "That's not pity. It's thanks." She tried to return it. He shook his head. "You're not invisible, Emily, and if he makes you feel like you are, you come find me." She tucked the money away. "He's not done, Clarence. He'll come back. Maybe for you, maybe for me." Clarence looked toward the parking lot. "Let him. I've fought worse than men who hide behind steak knives and paychecks." Emily laughed softly. "You know, I thought you were just another quiet regular. But now what?" he asked. "Now I think this place could use more men like you." Clarence smiled faintly. "Then maybe there's still hope for this town." The back door swung open. The busboy leaned out. "Emily, manager says if you're not back in 2 minutes, you can go home." She sighed. "That's my cue." Clarence nodded. "Go on, I'll be here. Still waiting on that steak." She slipped back inside, the door closing behind her. Clarence stood a moment longer, staring into the dark. The danger hadn't left. It just moved further away. When he walked back in, everything looked normal. But the air felt thinner, like everyone was pretending nothing had happened. His tea sat untouched, melting into the past. A fresh glass sat on the table, condensation sliding down its side. Across from it sat Clarence, his posture steady as the restaurant's manager, Jean's son, Travis Landry, approached. Travis moved like someone bracing for impact, a polite smile fixed in place. "Mr. Darnell," he began, straightening his shirt, "I just wanted to personally apologize for the wait. There's been a little confusion in the kitchen tonight." Clarence's expression didn't change. "Confusion?" "Yeah," Travis nodded quickly. "Miscommunication. Emily didn't put your ticket in right away, but we'll cover the meal. On the house." Clarence stayed standing. "You sure that's all that's going on back there?" Travis's smile faltered. "Of course. What else would there be?" Clarence let the silence stretch, then finally sat down. "Then I'll wait. That steak better be worth it." Travis eased back into his seat, trying to recover. "I hear you're a veteran. You hear that from Logan?" "Well, yeah," Travis said carefully. "You wear the cap." "I earned this cap," Clarence replied. "Didn't buy it to make conversation." Travis gave an awkward laugh. Right. We appreciate your service." Clarence folded his hands. "You've got a problem, Travis. And it's not just Logan." Travis hesitated. "I don't follow." "Your staff knows what's going on," Clarence said. "They've seen how certain customers get treated. Instead of fixing it, you're hoping it dies down." Travis's eyes flicked toward the bar. "This is a family restaurant, Mr. Darnell. People come here to relax, not—" "This isn't politics," Clarence interrupted. "It's decency. And if that's too much for you, maybe you shouldn't be running your daddy's restaurant." Travis looked stung. "Emily's been through a lot," he said finally. "I gave her a chance when no one else would. But if she keeps stirring things up, I can't protect her." "She doesn't need protecting," Clarence said coldly. "She needs backup." Travis had no answer. He just stood and said, "Your steak will be out soon." When Emily brought it out minutes later, the plate looked perfect. Steak seared right, fries crisp, greens steaming. "Sorry for the delay," she said softly. "No need," Clarence replied. "You all right?" She nodded once. "Travis told me to be careful what I say to customers. Said I might have misunderstood some things." "Did you?" She met his eyes. "Not even a little." Clarence nodded and cut into his steak. "Then let him be nervous. That's how things change." Emily didn't smile. She hesitated, then whispered, "Can I tell you something?" "Go ahead. I came back last year," she said quietly. "Moved in with my aunt. Needed work after my son's dad left. Logan was here already. The second he saw me, he started again. Same looks, same comments. I tried to ignore it, but it wasn't just me he watched. Anyone who didn't look like him." Clarence's voice was low. "That's not ignorance. That's learned, and no one ever told him he was wrong." Emily looked surprised. "But you did," Clarence continued. "You saw it, called it out, and warned me. That breaks the cycle. She straightened a little, but both knew Logan wasn't finished, and Travis wasn't going to fix anything soon. Clarence ate quietly, thinking. The food was perfect, but it didn't taste like much. He was chewing on something heavier. Lines, choices, and the price of silence. When he finished, he stood and walked to the counter. Travis looked up, startled. "Everything all right, Mr. Darnell?" I paid for it," Clarence said flatly. "But I'm not leaving without saying what I came to say. Maybe we should talk in my office." "No," Clarence said. "Right here, in front of whoever's listening." Heads turned. Conversations dimmed. "I've been eating here 6 years," Clarence said. "Never caused trouble. But tonight, I watched a woman show more courage than you've ever had." "Mr. Darnell," Travis started, lowering his voice. "You're worried about the wrong kind of trouble," Clarence said. "You let men treat this place like a private club, staring people down, whispering to staff, making threats. And you let it slide because it's easier." Travis crossed his arms. "This isn't the place for speeches." "Then stop running it like a stage," Clarence shot back. Silence. Then Emily's voice. "I'd like to say something." Travis turned, but she stood her ground. "I've worked here long enough to see it all. The favoritism, the harassment, the pressure to keep quiet. He's not the problem." She glanced at Clarence. "And if standing with him cost me this job, maybe it's not one I should have kept." "You could have heard a fork drop." Clarence nodded to her, then looked at Travis. "Run your daddy's steakhouse however you want, but stop pretending you don't know what's happening. You're either part of the solution or just another man waiting for the storm to pass." He left his receipt, grabbed his cap and walked out. Outside, the night air was thick with heat and the smell of grease and salt. He sat in his truck, engine off, watching through the window. Emily stood alone at the counter. Headlights appeared behind him. Logan's truck. Clarence didn't move. Logan and his crew climbed out fast, all swagger and anger. "You forget your leftovers?" Clarence called. Logan froze. "Didn't expect you to still be here." "Funny," Clarence said, stepping closer. "I figured you'd be gone by now. Pride makes people rush." They faced each other in the glow of the restaurant lights. "I told you earlier," Clarence said quietly. "You picked the wrong man," Logan smirked. "You made a scene. Said your piece. Doesn't change how things work." Clarence pointed toward the restaurant. "That girl in there? She made a choice. You know what happens when people do that? They lose," Logan said. Clarence tilted his head. "Sometimes, but not always. Sometimes, people like you don't get the last word." Behind Logan, one of his men stepped forward. Young shaved head, thick arms crossed. Clarence caught it right away. The nervous energy, the look of someone trying to decide if this was really worth it. "You really gonna try this here?" Clarence asked calmly. "Outside a family restaurant? Lights on, cameras running?" The man froze. Clarence turned back to Logan. "Your whole act falls apart in daylight. You're not invisible. You're not protected. And if you ever make that girl inside feel unsafe again, I'll make sure everyone in this town knows exactly who you are." For the first time that night, Logan had nothing to say. He just stood there, breathing heavy. "Walk back to that truck," Clarence said evenly, "and take your little audience with you. Or find out what happens when the quiet ones stop being quiet." Logan looked at his crew. Something shifted in his eyes. Not fear, but doubt. Finally, he jerked his chin. "Let's go." They turned away, boots thudding against the pavement. Truck doors slammed, the engine roared, and the sound faded into the night. Clarence stood still for a moment, then walked slowly back toward the restaurant. Inside, Emily was wiping down a table near the window. She looked up when he came in. "They came back?" she asked quietly. "Yeah," Clarence said. "But they're gone now." She let out a shaky breath. "You all right?" "I'm good," he replied. "You?" "I think I will be," Clarence nodded. He knew peace didn't come from one night. It came from what people chose to do when things got quiet again. The restaurant was nearly empty now. A few diners paid their checks, the cook called out the last order, and the clock ticked past 9:30. Clarence stayed near the front, scanning the room. Emily still had her job. Logan had walked away. For now, that was enough. Travis came out from the back, clipboard in hand. He spotted Clarence and hesitated. The fake smile was gone. "You didn't have to make that scene," Travis said. Clarence raised an eyebrow. "You think this was about drama?" Travis didn't respond. "You've been running this place like nothing's wrong," Clarence said. "But tonight proved otherwise. You knew Logan was a problem. You just didn't want to deal with it. He brings in a lot of business," Travis muttered. "He's connected. You think I can just ban him and not feel it on the books?" Clarence stepped closer. "What you tolerate defines you. That man came in here threatening people, and you still see dollar signs when you look at him?" "It's complicated," Travis said quietly. "No," Clarence said. "It's not. You either stand for something, or you let people like him take over." Emily walked out of the kitchen carrying a tray, listening but not interrupting. Travis looked between them. "I didn't ask for this," he said. "Nobody asks for responsibility," Clarence replied. "But your name's on the door. That means something." Travis looked down, exhaling slowly. "My dad built this place," he said. "He worked himself half to death to keep it open. He thought it brought people together." Clarence nodded. "So what would he say if he saw it tonight?" Travis didn't answer. Emily finally spoke. "You don't have to fix it all tonight," she said. "But you have to start. Fire me if you want, but I'm not lying about what's been going on." Travis rubbed the bridge of his nose. "No one's getting fired," he said. "I just need time to figure this out." "You don't have time," Clarence said. "The clock's been ticking for a while. You just didn't hear it." Travis looked at both of them, Clarence steady and calm, Emily tired but firm. Finally, he nodded. "I'll handle it," Clarence gave a slight nod. "We'll see." He turned to leave, and Emily followed him outside. "I don't think he knows what to do," she said softly. "He'll learn," Clarence replied. "Or he'll lose everything trying not to choose." She gave a faint laugh. "I'm used to people walking away when things get hard." "You didn't," Clarence looked at her. "I've walked away before," he said. "But not this time." She glanced up at the night sky. "You think it'll change anything?" "Not tonight," Clarence said. "But maybe someday. Nights like this shake things loose." A car pulled into the lot. A black man and a Latina woman stepped out smiling. They walked into the restaurant without hesitation. Clarence didn't say a word, but he noticed. That small moment meant something. Later that night, Clarence sat in his recliner, the lights off, the ceiling fan humming. He wasn't angry, just tired. Tired of explaining what should have been obvious. Tired of watching good people like Emily stand alone. But under the tiredness, he felt pride. Emily Carver had stood up when it mattered most. 2 days later, his phone rang. "Hey, it's Emily," she said. "Just thought you should know. Logan's crew didn't come back." Travis put a sign on the door that says, "This place serves everyone. Those who don't like it can eat somewhere else." Clarence smiled. "Good," he said. "That's a start. You coming in this week?" she asked. He paused. "Wouldn't miss it." That Friday, at 6:07 sharp, Clarence walked into Jean's Roadhouse. The place wasn't packed, but it was alive. Laughter, conversation, the smell of food in the air. Emily greeted him with an easy smile. "Your table's ready." Near the door was a new sign. "Respect is served here." His meal came out perfect. Steak tender, fries crisp, greens full of flavor. And this time, he tasted every bite. Across the room, Travis watched quietly. Their eyes met. No nod, no words, just understanding. When Clarence finished, he left a crisp 50 in the checkbook. No note, no message, just enough to say, "Keep going." As he stood to leave, Emily touched his arm. "Thank you," she said. Clarence looked at her and said, "Don't let them teach you to stay quiet just to stay safe." Outside, the sun was low, washing the street in soft orange light. Clarence paused by his truck, taking it in. Sometimes, he thought, the smallest stand, a quiet word, a simple refusal to look away, echoes louder than the loudest fight. Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just speaks. And sometimes one voice is enough to remind everyone that silence isn't peace.